Good afternoon. Welcome to episode 43 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the beautiful and comfortable confines of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. As always, I want to let people know, because for those of you that may not have known, we are now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Yes, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I've sent out a couple of links. I'll send out some more information because this just happened, obviously, over the past course of a couple of days. Again, thank you as always. Without you guys, it wouldn't be possible. But hopping right into it for this episode, for episode 43. This episode, we're going to touch on college football news and notes. You guys, I'm pretty sure you guys know it's getting close to be that season. It's almost college football time. You can smell it in the air. Yes. Time for my Seminoles to get out there. And don't know if we're going to have the season we had last year, but definitely think it's possibly be a good year. But it's going to be a good year for a lot of good teams. With the expansion of the 12-team playoff, I'm going to touch on that as well. A lot of topics, a lot of things to get on. First thing we're going to hop on with this subject is the Texas Longhorns. As you know, earlier, a couple months back, I did a review of some college football teams, looking at the spring workouts, seeing things that I noticed. I didn't touch on every team because obviously I wanted to try to see, how each team prepared and what they were going to go about and what plan to do or plan of attack. A lot of guys were leaving, a lot of guys were making departures, things of that nature. So really wanted to see how the teams would address it going into this offseason. Starting off again with the Texas Longhorns. What is amazing is Texas with Steve Sarkisian. Now with him having control, it seems like we're doing a complete review of the team. It seems like he has complete control of the team now. No more boosters or, financiers. For those that don't know, boosters, people that give money to the program. Without these guys being over his shoulder and playing more of an administrative role or advisory role or parental role or whatever fucking role you want to use, an overseer. Without those guys being that, lingering over the team and lingering over him, he has now more control of the team, which is great. I'm always of that mindset. If you want me to make the dinner, you should at least allow me to buy the groceries. Just saying. So makes sense there. Nonetheless, he's helped the team find their identity. They seem more physical. They definitely want to stretch the field. They definitely are an attacking team. This is the first time I've seen this from a Texas Longhorns offense in years. Possibly since like the Mac Brown, Colt McCoy days, probably the last time we've seen that. And even that approach was a slightly different. But nonetheless, it's exciting to see. The question, though, is can they win a national title? It's interesting because being that they're now in a conference with being in the SEC, all their games matter. I mean, Big 12, it's kind of weird because honestly, in the Big 12, it's not that those games didn't matter. It's not that those games didn't play a factor or no one checked for those games. But realistically speaking, when you're playing the SEC, those games are valued more. They're weighed higher. They have more of a degree of difficulty measured with them compared to you playing Baylor in December or Texas A&M and the end of November. Not that rivalry, and I know with the new format, rivalry games are pretty much non-existent anymore. There's barely any rivalry games, which sucks. But that being said, this I think could help benefit Texas because a couple good wins. Being that now it's a 12-team format, you don't need to go undefeated or lose one game. Now you can lose a game or two, and it's not going to technically put you out of it. You definitely got to keep your eyes on the Longhorns. I think this is definitely a season where they could possibly sneak and win it. And I don't want to be disrespectful when I say sneak and win it. It's just that there's three other great teams I feel that could really, possibly supplant them and win the national title. That being, Ohio State, that being Georgia, that being Oregon. There's some teams there that you definitely feel like could threaten them, but it's going to be very interesting for the Texas Longhorns to see if they can sustain. I do feel like with their quarterback situation now settled, they did lose Adonai Mitchell. They did lose some guys due to the draft, Byron Murphy as well. But again, they kind of knew this and they kind of replenished the roster a bit. So, again, it's going to be a great, interesting season for the Longhorns. I'm expecting great things out of them. I'm expecting them to be able to compete. But ultimately, when that playoff comes around, we'll see if they're around. So, next, but most importantly, but not as important, would be the Colorado Buffaloes. The Colorado Buffaloes had a very interesting season last year. We all know they ended up 4-8 after starting out hot, kind of unexpectedly because of the tumultuous season that they had the year prior. Just, one win, garbage, fucking dumpster fire of an organization the year prior. So Deion comes in, kind of saves the day, renews the team, renews the organization. And, his sons are playing there. Everything's well documented. Lil Wayne's been there. A bunch of celebrities has come to the team, come to the facility to talk to the team and greet the team. But nonetheless, all of that still resulted in 4 wins. I get what Deion's doing. Deion came in there and changed the culture. Deion had to come in there and pretty much repair a broken, mentally and emotionally broken organization. So I completely understand why he did what he did, what the thought process and the mindset was going into it. However, though, 4-8 is still ass. And for Deion Sanders, the expectations are the expectations, and that was underperforming still, even though, which is horrendous to even say, just to quantify how bad the Colorado Buffaloes were 2 years ago, excuse me. Literally, Deion winning 4 games made them 400% better in the win column, win percentage, 400% better than what they were in 2022. So again, it just speaks to, he came in, he changed the culture. He came in and gave them a breath of fresh air. He gave them, a shot, a shot in the arm, for lack of better words, but still underperformed. And I know, because I witnessed this, I'll never forget the game against Stanford. You're up 28-0. You completely choke. Defense is just fucking horrendous. Outside of Shiloh Sanders and Travis Hunter, I don't really even know who they have on defense because it's just that bad. But with all that being said, that was last year. This year, the defense is, because my name is my name, and I don't ever want to quote and say great. They're not great. They're okay. They're better than I think they're projected to be better than what they were a year ago, looking at their spring practice, looking at how Deion kind of had them running sets, and looking this spring. They definitely should be better. I'll say okay. Fuck it. I'll say okay for lack of better words, because I'm not that confident in saying great or good, because, they were just downright horrible a year ago. So if they're okay, which we project, this would be great news for the Colorado Buffaloes. Shedeur Sanders should be much more comfortable. A lot of talking all season about his potential draft status and where he might go. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I like Shedeur's game. There are a lot of people that don't. There are a lot of people that feel like there's a lot to be desired. I feel like he's accurate. He's mobile. He's sometimes his decision making can be, can leave a lot to be desired. That being said, though, him being comfortable another year in this offense, I think that'll show a cause and show that this offense and this team can take another step to potentially win possibly 7 to 9 games this year instead of winning 4. And another big thing that helps Colorado this year that no one can ever underestimate is your schedule. Who you play, plays a major factor in everything. And Colorado, ultimately their schedule gets lighter from the middle to the end of the season. So, compared to last year where they ran a gauntlet of tough games, you had UFC, even though USC's defense was a dumpster fire. They played USC's, they played some teams out there that could really threaten them offensively and threaten their defense. So it's going to be a different beast, different monster for Colorado this year. Very excited to see how they play out, because they definitely want to rebound from 4-8. And they obviously rebounded from the 1-win season 2 years prior, but progress is measured each year. You got to always update your resume. So we'll be interested to see how the Buffaloes respond and how Deion gets his team hyped. And ultimately, if he can live up to the hype that he's kind of set for this team. Next is going to be a very interesting one for me. I've been following this team closely throughout the offseason. And no, it's not my Florida State Seminoles, y'all. It is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Interesting thing, we all know Nick Saban's gone. Nick Saban retired this offseason, which is weird for me because it's obviously the first time since 2007 that a different head coach will be on the sidelines for the Alabama Crimson Tide outside of Nick Saban. Outside Nick, it's just even to say it is crazy. Outside of, there's going to be a new coach there, not named Nick Saban, which is just crazy. But how will Kalen DeBoer fare? It's an interesting question because, they lost a lot of guys, guys that Nick recruited, left, went to Georgia, went to Ohio State, went to several different programs, is well touted, well spoken on. And it's ultimately, the question is, how will the Tide finish and what will their record look like? I can't say, it's kind of early to jump and say what the record will look like, but I will say I think they will be a good team this year. Kalen DeBoer has this one thing that you can't underestimate for him, and it counts. This is something that counts whether you're a player or a coach. Everywhere he goes, he fucking wins, y'all. I mean, everywhere he goes. Let's just keep this in context, though. 4 years he's been a coach, right? Kalen DeBoer's record in 4 years is 37-9. So clearly he knows how to win football games. He's 2023 Coach of the Year, Doak Campbell Award winner, 2-time Pac-12 Coach of the Year, 2023 Associated Press Coach of the Year, 2023 Robinson Coach of the Year, well-known coach Robinson from Grambling, well-known, well respect. God bless you, brother. He won all these coaches awards within this past season. And to keep this in mind, his bowl record, 2-1. So he wins bowl games too. He's got a decent bowl record. Fresno State, he was 12-6. Washington, 25-3. This guy wins. I mean, if you're winning Fresno State, trust me, I know you could coach. Because Fresno State don't really have shit. I mean, let's be honest. Outside of Devontae Adams and a Derek Carr, the list is very thin on who we're talking about coming out of Fresno State is actually elite or good, for lack of better words. But Alabama should be excited, although. With the SEC realignment, recruiting won't be as easy for them as it once was. Because, again, Nick had a stranglehold on it. There was no NIL, excuse me. There was no, there were player portals, but the NIL didn't exist. And that's just changed the game for teams like Alabama. I think that's why Nick, my personal opinion, ran scared, because Nick knew he wasn't going to be able to compete with a lot of these teams when it came to NIL money, when it came to making the necessary adjustments to recruit talent, because you're paying for players. It's just like NFL free agency. You're paying for players. And these coaches, they don't really want to do that. So whether that's a knock on Nick Saban or not, I'll leave you guys to decide that. But nonetheless, very interesting times for the Crimson Tide, and very excited to see how Kalen DeBoer will be this year with Alabama. Which also leads into something else. You've heard me mention with Alabama with the SEC realignment, Texas with the realignment. Something I think that is not really getting talked about as much now, that will be talked about more going into this college football season and so on. Non-conference games matter. I mean, it's a great thing to say, guys. Non-conference games matter. Most of my life, non-conference games, unless you lost them, really didn't matter. Technically they always matter because you had to win them. But if you lost them, unless the team was, quite garbage, it really didn't count against you. They will now. Because now with the 12-team playoffs starting this year, non-conference games hold more significance. Just to give you an idea of some non-conference games, something for you to stew on and tell you the magnitude of how important and exciting this season is. This is the matchups. Some matchups I just want to jot down that were stuck out in my mind. Texas versus Michigan. Now, granted, no Jim Harbaugh in Michigan, but still some of the remnants of his squad. A lot of guys left, but we'll see. Still be an important game. Ohio State versus Oregon. Definitely going to be an important game. And the one I have circled that I think no one's really talking about right now, Georgia versus Texas. That's going to be, that to me could wind up being your national champion in that game. Just being honest. The winner of that game being the national champion in the end. Also, another note per Pro Football Focus College, they have listed the 4 most underrated teams going into this college football season. Very interesting teams, actually, on this list. You have the Arizona Wildcats. You have the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. You have the Indiana Hoosiers and the Kansas Jayhawks. Very interesting for me about Georgia Tech. I knew Georgia Tech was kind of coming on last year. They in the ACC. My Seminoles, for however long we may still be in the ACC, whether this year or the next year, because everybody, I'm not sure if you guys know or if those who do know, for the uninitiated, Florida State is trying to get out of the ACC. They're trying to avoid that contract and realign it to the SEC. More money, bigger games, bigger market, better recruiting opportunities. So I get it. But nonetheless, that game against Georgia Tech is always a good one. And week 1, Florida State will be playing Georgia Tech. So Florida State has to be, on the upset alert. I know both teams are not ranked, but both teams will be ranked after that game. I can guarantee you that. So it'll be very interesting to see how that plays out and what the end results may be for that. Because again, when you start talking about underrated teams early in the year, it's always those teams that you're not prepared for that kind of catch you off guard and pop you in the mouth and shock you. But that's going to do it for my episode on college football news and notes. I thank you guys for always watching. As again, check us out on Spotify, YouTube, and also on Apple Podcasts. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you as always, guys. Take care. You have a great day.